got the results we wanted in pre-season, and what was the main takeaway and the wrap-up for those games for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and this was the thing. Obviously, coming in first year and with some new guys, returning guys, there was a lot of things that we wanted to cover. There were some areas where we excelled in, that we got better in. I think it was evident, especially in our shot selection. The first 2 games, we're 8 of 43 from the mid-range, and then the next 2 games, we only put up 4. So, that was something we wanted to address with our shot selection, so we make leaps and strides in that area. One example that it didn't work in our favour was the turnovers. We don't value the ball yet, and so trying to increase the level of intensity, urgency, trying to manage guys when the pressure's on, to play through it and not go so tight and restrictive. But we broke down all the turnovers. It was 107 over 5 games, which is not great. 21% of our possessions, we just throw it away. And the majority of those were either passing or catching the pass. Actually, it was 49% of the turnovers was on the pass or the catch. So, yeah, still a lot to work on. We can't pretend it's not there. We can't pretend that it's going to be okay. It's something we need to address. It's a real thing, and we got 4 days to plan for it.
Just not getting the win. Does that concern you?
No, the rotations are played differently as well. The one benefit, in the one positive that we can take away from the fact that we didn't get any wins is it doesn't disguise the deficiencies we had. If you walked away, if I played the starters in the overtime game against Adelaide, we didn't drop one of the 2 games that we had between Brisbane or Perth. The way I got after the guys, in the film review, there's a little bit that could be, oh, well, look, we're 2 and 3, what's he stressing about? But, the fact that we come out with no wins, it makes all the areas that I want to address and improve on real. There's no sugarcoating it. This is the difference between winning and losing.
What are some of the areas?
Sorry?
Which deficiencies, what are some of the areas?
Yeah, so on court, like the shot selection, which we made steady strides in. The turnovers weren't great. We changed a little bit structurally what we did on the offensive side of things. So we changed our press breaker, we changed our post action just to allow. We trialled some things basically, and some things worked and some things didn't. And then there's some off-court things we want to address in a sense of how we communicate to one another. When the plays aren't going our way, not to be so reactionary. And I'm guilty of that myself. So, there was a few things that we made some good strides in terms of, becoming more of a team rather than just individuals out there trying to play basketball. But then there's also the expectation that there's some key individuals that had to step up. We've had those conversations. They know what their expectations are. They also know my expectations of them. And there's a bit of a line in the sand moment with a few of those guys, which has been great because it's a real conversation. So this is it. I can't say it's just one thing because the reality is it's not. There's multiple things that we need to improve on. Some were baby steps and some were giant leaps.
In terms of player performances, obviously Scotty Machado, he is who he is. Were you concerned at all about his performance in the pre-season, or does it not bother you so much knowing who he is as a player?
And this is the thing, and as I spoke with Scott, my elementary level understanding of analytics, I pride myself on, especially from the basketball side of things. But when you look at some of a multi-billion-dollar industry like sports bets and Ladbrokes, and they heavily invest in their analytics, and they've got Scott Machado as the 3rd odds-on favourite for the league MVP. And that's not just off perception or a throwaway. There's numbers and there's performance behind that. So look, I spoke with Scott and we had a good conversation where we both agreed that it probably wasn't the best pre-season for him. Would I have liked at least one more game or 2 more games, find some form before we roll into Perth? 100%, but we don't have that luxury. So the great thing is he is a level-headed, mature, experienced, elite point guard, and he's going to find whatever he needs to find between now and then to get that form. But again, also we're not solely putting on Scott's shoulders. He can't carry the burden of wins and losses. There are multiple players that we need to step up, and and he's aware of that as well.
Tajir, on the other hand, had a pretty ripper pre-season. In terms of his form, how did you like that?
Yeah, happy. So, if there was any uncertainties going into pre-season or how our two new imports coming in would be, I'm happy. I'm happy the way Zim, and we limited Zim, with some minutes and trying to get some form and some new guys coming in. But look, Zim was great, Taj was great, so I'm confident, rolling into the Perth game that they're going to play solid minutes and they're going to be very productive for us.
Winning the title, you guys are maybe around 30 to 1 or something like that. Kansas used to be written off like this. I mean, how does Coach approach that when you're sort of the underdogs, out of sight, out of mind, a little bit in Kansas? Does that just roll off your back? You don't care or look into anything like that?
Yeah, you can't focus too much on it, because the expectations, right, will change. If you win 3 games in a row, then everybody starts, carrying on about, how good this team can potentially be. So the same way I ask the guys not to ride the highs and lows, that emotional roller coaster that we go through, we can't get caught up in the same highs and lows with everybody else's expectations. What's important is the team here, my expectations, team's expectations, management's expectations. Other than that, everybody's got opinions, right? And you can't do much about it.
I was just going to say, just Mirko, this training today, is everything right?
Yeah, calf, obviously he pulled up a bit short with the Brisbane game, more precautionary. He could potentially push through it, no worries, but there was no real reason, so that's why he sat out the last 2 games. But we want to make sure we get a scan cleared today before we put him back on the floor. A calf can rule you out for 5 to 6 weeks if you don't manage it, so we're just trying to stay on top.
In terms of the starting 5 from the pre-season to now, is that going to change anytime soon between the match against the Wildcats this weekend? Yeah,
potentially. It really does. When we talked about expectations, Quat was one that we had a real good conversation with. And, it's a change of system for him, and I understand that. And there's rules that we have more so on the defensive side of things, rotations, and then obviously in the shot selection. So as he's still trying to manage that, once he gets up to a level that I'm confident in, that'll determine whether we start Quat or not. I'm very confident in Quat as a player, and he's extremely coachable, and everything I've said to him, he's taken on board. So this is another reason why he's such a valuable teammate. I expect so much from Quat because he's capable, and I won't be doing him a service if I don't coach him the way he needs to be coached. So, will it change? Yeah, unlikely, but there's always a chance that it potentially depends on how the next 4 days plays out.
And just with the Wildcats this weekend, obviously a big game you held pretty tight in the pre-season. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, again, I think we match up fairly well. We've made it pretty clear that we've got a pretty good post target. Zim and Nate, I think, worked well, especially when they're on the floor together. Poses some matchup problems for us, but I think it also poses a lot of matchup problems for them. But look, at the end of the day, we need to make sure the things that we do well are rock solid. We were composed for a good chunk of the game. Bryce Cotton comes out and does what Bryce Cotton does, hits a couple of threes in a row, and then we try and play catch up after that. And the reality was we didn't need to. We just had to stay with our process. So if we try and match them three-pointer for three-pointer and try and go on those momentum swings, it's not going to work for us. We need to slow it down. We need to grind it out. We need to play it at our pace.
Just lastly, just for another story I'm working on, in terms of your role as a coach, when you're looking for talent, maybe not as imports, but on a local level, what is it you look for and how do you sort of scope that talent?
Yeah, again, when I talk about the analytics side of things, like you want to look for the pattern in the numbers. Bull, for example, his entire collegiate career, we're talking 90% of his shots came from 3, in which he shot 43% on. So there's something in that. We've got a training player coming through in the next couple of weeks, Robbie Heath, who has a free throw rate that exceeds what normal guards take on board. So there's always things you want to explore, right? And it doesn't matter if it's an import, it doesn't matter if it's a local rookie, it doesn't matter if it's a training player. But also, with those guys, you want to be able to have an expectation that they can perform, but also not throw them in the deep end straight away and use a bit of a project. So, for example, Bull was great. There's still some areas that we need to work on. How we use him and rotate him in the next 6 to 7 weeks will be different to how we potentially play him in the last 6 to 7 weeks. But you know, there's a pattern in the numbers that you have to investigate. In Paul's case, he's a very good shooter.
Is that usually from an NBL 1 level, or do you delve deeper into high school or that sort of stuff? Or?
We don't go that far back. It will generally be NBL 1 level, college, and it can be D1, D2, NAIA, anything like that. And it has to be a course over a couple of years. You know, if you can always have these flash in the pan moments if they have one good season but they haven't backed it up before. So, you know, rough rule of thumb is always go 3 years for a good sample size, and it gives you a pretty good predictor of what they could be in the future. Easy, perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you.